Welcome to another Milepost of the V-Twin Life. We talk motorcycles powered by those V-Twins, why we enjoy it, what they mean to us, and just why we enjoy the open road. V-Twin Life is brought to you by CrashInClothing.com, also known as Crash Inc. on the World Wide Web. Man, Brad has sold a lot of stuff. You want to get some merchandise, you want to get parts, you want to upgrade stuff on your bike. He is a dealer for a lot of great companies, so check out CrashInClothing.com and see what they got for you. Now, we got Wild Ass. You want to add some comfort to your ass? Man, Wild Ass has got you covered. They've got something you like. Use that promo code DWoods. Get yourself free shipping and put that ass in comfort. Can't forget Custom Dynamics, leading the world in LED lighting and LED technology. Man, these got some great stuff. You want to light up your life at nighttime? You want to be seen during the day? Hey, check out Custom Dynamics. Can't forget Lexan. These guys got some great comm units. I just got the new G16s. Man, you want to talk quality? These things are awesome. Loudspeakers, plus they got some air pumps, small ones you keep in your bike. They're ready to go. So check out Lexan. So now, let's get to another milepost of the V-Twin Life. Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome to Milepost 129. Tonight we got Don, better known as Hyde, Chaffer out of Texas, come to join us and hang out and share some good times and stories and life on the road and riding and enjoying that passion of two wheels. So, hey, Hyde, thanks for coming in and joining and hanging out tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. You know, like, we've been chatting. It was fun to actually get to meet you when we went down to Texas for the goats video, and yeah, we talked about doing this. Or heck yeah, man, let's do it and hang out and checks out some adventures you've done.
Perfect.
So, like I always like to do, you know, how'd you get into motorcycles? Where'd it start for you?
I think it started pretty early. You know, I grew up in the Mojave Desert in Southern California, and dune buggies and motorcycles were part of growing up. And some of my earliest memories were being out on sand dunes or being out in the desert and camping at washes. And my first bike, you could say that I was probably about 5 years old and got a thing called a dune cycle, three-wheeler, paddle wheel, rear paddle wheels mostly for sand dunes and stuff like that. So I rode that three-wheeler probably from the time I was 5 years old. That was my starting foray into motorcycle life.
What part of Southern California?
Imperial Valley. I grew up in a small town in the Imperial Valley called Calipatria. I was born in
You're not familiar with that one.
Little town, about 1,800 people. Some folks have heard of El Centro. I lived some of my time in El Centro, but I was born in Brawley. Imperial Valley's a farming, ranching area of the Mojave Desert, all irrigated farmland, and the place I grew up was kind of right in the middle of that. So the desert was out your back door, but lots of ditch bank riding and to get to the desert, and that was just part of what we did growing up.
So is that anywhere close, like say Riverside or Lake Elsinore in that area?
Further south.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, further south, and it's about it's right on the Mexican border. El Centro is about 10 miles, 20 miles north of the Mexican border, but about 3 hours east of San Diego.
Okay. Yeah, familiar. I mean, some of that area. Years back, I went down to the Lake Elsinore Grand Prix when they first started that again in the late 90s.
They have a big body of water there called the Salton Sea, if you're familiar with that. And I grew up on one side of the Salton Sea, and Palm Springs is on the other side of Salton Sea.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What's up, Sparks? I got Springer Mike hanging out right now. And so what came along after the three-wheeler? When did you finally get hooked on two wheels?
You know, the first motorcycle I got was sort of a find by my dad. My dad had a friend who had a old Suzuki 50 that was out behind a barn, and he told me I could have it but I had to figure out how to make it run. And I was probably, I think I was probably sixth grade, so 11 years old, something like that. And that Suzuki 50, I rode that for several years, and figured out how to make it run. There was a guy in town that owned the Suzuki dealership in Brawley, California, and he was about 2 blocks away. And I would wrench on that motorcycle and then go back and forth to his house with questions, and he'd feed me answers, one question at a time, until I got that thing on the road. And I rode it for a few years. It was a death trap, but I rode it for a few years. And all of our riding then, we lived for it, because the way our life worked is we went to school Monday through Friday, and then as soon as school was out on Friday, we were on those motorcycles camping on ditch banks and camping for the weekend. It'd be 4 or 5 guys out there on their motorcycles, camping on these ditch banks and down in gullies in between the ditch banks, and cooking our own food on mesquite that we just got from the ditch bank area, and doing all the fun stuff that, a preteen kid does out on a motorcycle, I guess. And
Heck yeah.
That was my first taste of freedom. I mean, getting on that motorcycle on Friday evening, it was just like a breath of fresh air, breath of freedom. And we lived for it. Loved every minute of it.
Yeah, I can remember growing up, I had an old Yamaha MX-80 was one of my first one. And same way you get out of school, I kind of lived a little out in the country, and man, you hop on that, go ride the trails we built, and yeah, it was a blast.
We'd go up and down ditch banks, and I had that motorcycle. The handlebars were stripped on the risers, and I tried every trick known to humankind to fix those stripped handlebars. So every time going up, if I didn't do it just right, going down a ditch bank, those handlebars would fall forward.
Oh shit!
And just, I don't know. I learned a lot riding that motorcycle for quite a while, and dirt bike riding. It just it was just a wonderful education on riding a motorcycle. I mean, riding dirt bikes is something I enjoyed for years after that, quite a bit.
Yeah, same way. I mean, it was so much fun. It just, it's hard to sometimes put into words and explain to, people that maybe started and came into it a different way. But I can remember it, so much fun, riding the shoulder of the highway down to go find some other trails, and just, thinking you're just the king shit and just having fun.
When I was 13, I got a step up from that 50, and I got a Suzuki TS 185. And you'd have thought I hit the lottery. I mean, it was just such a huge step up for me in terms of power and safety that it made it so much more enjoyable. And I miss that motorcycle to this day. I wish I still had it. I washed that thing 3 times a day, probably.
I think the dirt bike I missed the most when I was younger was I think it was an 89 or 1990 Yamaha TT 500. That thing was so much fun. That's one of the old bikes that I missed the most when it came to just having fun. Just go ripping the trails, you climb hills.
Yep.
Somewhat agile, so you could still throw it around, and God, it was just fun.
I had, there were a lot of the older guys, the high school guys, they were riding bikes that you just dream about back then, the 2-stroke engines and old bikes like Bull Tacos and Montesa, just these amazing motorcycles that were used on motorcycle runs down into Baja and desert races and cross country races and
like the old what was Kajivas.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun to reminisce and look down on, some of the old bike brands. I totally forgot about Boltaco until you brought that one up. I haven't heard of them in forever. Hodaka's. Yeah, Phoenix, his first bike was a 72 TS 185.
Yeah, I love that motorcycle. I wish I had it to this day. It's orange with a black racing stripe on the side. It was just cool motorcycle.
I think the other thing I really missed from the old bikes was, especially get the old two strokes, is just the smell of a two stroke. They're just nothing like it.
Yeah. Yeah. The smell and the sound was just spectacular.
Yeah, we had for a little while, it was a Yamaha. I don't remember which model. It was a 185. It was enduro. It was a dual sport. It was a late 70s model. My stepdad got the hell. We rode the shit out of that.
Yeah,
they're fun.
I agree.
You don't see them anymore either.
No, you don't. Trials bikes were, there's some guys that ride trials down there, and then hill climbing is a big sport down there in the Mojave, and Glamis is not too far away. So a lot of the hill climb stuff, those are things we would go to as a kid for camping trips and watching.
I used to love, that was my thing when I was younger, was hill climb. I'm trying to find a picture. I'll send it to you really quick. Used to hill climb back there. I had a stretch CR500. I'd go ride in Montana. I raced up in Canada, Oregon, Idaho. Oh, it was a blast.
Between trials and hill climbing, that is some of the craziest motorcycling I have ever seen. Just the raw power of a hill climb motorcycle and the insanity of some of those hill climb races back in those days was just invigorating. We love motorsports in general,
Yeah.
But
I did motocross when I was young, my early teen years. Then I got in a bad wreck and from my lips up. I had broken cheekbones, multiple skull fractures. I'd ripped the dura open around my brain, ruptured spinal cord, broken orbitals, nose, forehead was shattered, and spent quite a while in the hospital. Couldn't ride for 6 months, but after that, I decided that I shouldn't say I didn't like motocross. I got into hill climbing, and to me, it was safer. It's me against the clock. I don't got 10 guys in front of me. I don't got guys to the left, to the right, behind me. It's just you by yourself. And to me, it seemed like it was so much more safer. If you 9 times out of 10, it's going to go bad. So cut the throttle, pull the dead man. You still got some small little, fluke accidents, still here and there. But I don't know. I felt safer doing it. And it to me, that was the biggest adrenaline rush you could have.
That amazes me because I'm not a huge fan of heights. And so I guess getting to the top is awesome, but the frequency that those guys went and get to the top, that just, I was always happier to be down on the desert floor than climbing that hill.
The one in, it was up in Smelterville, Idaho, just outside of Kellogg. It was in a big rock quarry, and they still had, you get up to the top, they had the wall damn near inverted, and they had the guys up there with hooks. If you didn't make it, they were trying to hook your bike before it went to the ground.
Oh.
It was I think it was 900 foot.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was so much fun.
Motorcycle competing, I've always loved it all my life. In fact, I've one of my to-do things that I would love to learn to do is flat track race and get me a dirt track, flat track racer one of these days to tinker with.
I think it would be fun. I think that's, besides that and trials, was the two, like, motorsports, when it came to motorcycles, that I never tried. Trials riding, I love to watch. Man, watching those guys is so impressive with the throttle control, the brakes, and balance. It is absolutely amazing. But
What
it's
they
like
can do with those, yeah, what they can do with those motorcycles just blows my
oh,
mind.
it's
I mean,
insane.
some
It's
of the
really big in
obstacles they
Canada.
get up is just insane.
Mm-hmm. And then I guess Southern Oregon and Southwest Washington, or Southern Washington, they're in the wintertime, they have a flat track league down there that some friends of mine down in Oregon, they get into. And it's like, I got to go check it out and watch it.
Yeah.
Get the guys that are really into it, because then you get the steel shoe on your boot for when you're sliding it going around, and yeah, it'd be fun.
Yep. I agree.
But I don't heel as well as I used to when I was young, so I think I'll just stick to watching it.
None of us do, Denver. Unfortunately.
So when did you get hooked on riding on the road? What got you there?
I was always attracted to it. I was attracted to it when I was a kid, quite a bit. My grandfather rode every day of his life, and he rode a Honda Goldwing, and he lived in Brawley, and he worked as a civilian for the Navy. He was a head machinist for the Blue Angels down in El Centro Naval Air Station, and he rode to and from work every day his whole life. And I just so it sort of planted a seed, and then there was there was a lot of biker culture, and the movies were coming out during those days. Easy Rider and all the biker B movies and all that stuff. Well, a lot of those were filmed down there where I grew up. Mecca was not very far away, and between us and Salt City. So, and we were frequently on the path for a lot of runs for a lot of the club bikers in Southern California. So when clubs would come to town, and we had a club, a California club that had a chapter there in our town. So seeing bikers, on Harleys was something that I grew up seeing as a kid and just being mystified by and attracted to. I wanted to do that when I grew up. So I don't think that ever left me. I don't think that ever went away. And, after I got all my education stuff done and got some of my life stage stuff done, it was, one of the first things I needed to do was buy me a bike. And, that's been nearly 20 years ago that I got back on the road and got my first Harley.
So you had quite the little hiatus then for a little while when it came to riding on the road.
I did quite a bit. I went into the Marine Corps straight out of high school, and then went straight to college, and in the working world for a while, and then went back into college again, more education. And I actually didn't get done with my education stuff till I was 41 years old. So, I had a pretty significant break there.
Well, on a side note, also, thank you for your service in the military, being in the United States Marines.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I appreciate. I mean, everybody that my philosophy is our veterans are, they're American heroes. They deserve everything, and far too many of them don't get what they have coming. It's sad. Well, yeah. So once you got out of school, and your first one, what was your first Harley?
My first Harley was a 07 Dyna, and I still have that bike. It's a wonderful bike to ride. I mean, that is just an amazing motor. It's got a 110 in it, and it's the Dyna FX DSE, and that's been a lot of fun to ride all over the country. I mean, I've been all over the country on that bike. It doesn't seem like it would be comfortable to ride for long distance riding, but it's so light, and it's got drag bars on it, no fairing. So getting on the road, actually, it's deceptively a comfortable bike to ride on a long ride, because it just you hit about 75 or 80 on the road, and the wind hitting you in the chest is almost a perfect counterbalance on your hands. So there's no pressure on your hands. And it ends up being pretty comfortable. If I had a fairing, it would screw it all up, I'm pretty sure.
I got a friend that has, he's got a Dyna. He's ridden, coast to coast, all over the country, on asphalt. And, like he's a shorter guy from France, but, like he said, and a lot of people, they buy bikes not comfortable. Well, if you kind of change things, you set it up, get the ergonomics to you, man, and guy can make anything comfortable to them almost. It's just, set it up right for you and what you want, and like enjoy it and hit the road.
That's exactly right. I mean, I think for long distance riding, you just pay attention to your body and what it's telling you, and tweak and adjust and tweak some more, and adjust some more. And, sometimes something as simple as moving a foot peg an inch out can be massive in terms of your comfort level on a long ride, and what you're able to endure too. Because if you're having to wrap your leg around an air cleaner, you aren't going to last very long.
No, it's very true.
Yeah, it'll wear you down.
Yeah, it's little things. Even, me riding a bagger, playing with the highway pegs, I had them low too high. It's all right. Let me get them down a little bit lower. And, I have mine set up because I love to rest my heels on my floorboards, and I rest my toes up on the highway pegs most time, where I kick my feet all the way up if I want. But it's just having different spots to be able to move your legs while you're riding too is huge, at least for me.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. When I'm doing a long ride, I wish I had a video of it, because it's almost like calisthenics. I'm moving all over the place on that saddle on that motorcycle. I just finding changes in position is everything. So
What really got you into enjoying the long distance aspect of riding?
I don't know. I think I've always been sort of a goal-oriented kind of guy, having a destination, or a something to, biker yoga. Yeah, something to, exactly right. I think that's right. That's a good characterization of it from Twister there. Having a goal or a destination, someplace I'm trying to get to, that I just sort of break it up in my mind in pieces, and it sort of ends up feeling a bit like a treasure hunt in my mind. I guess that's the best way for me to characterize it. Is I get sort of a treasure hunt mentality, the big payoff at the end of getting to where you want to go, or completing the task of what you're trying to do with your long distance ride. That's the ultimate payoff. But then each, gas stop is a little endorphin payoff. It's, making it to the next gas stop, or making it to the next turn, or finding the next path. That sort of gives little nuggets along the way. And so my mind just sort of clicks to that. And long distance riding, it's hugely enjoyable to me. Besides the fact that you get on the road like that, and the serendipity components of being on the road like that, the things that just happen that are out of left field, unusual, twists in the story, or twist in the pathway. I cherish that. I've just have some of my best memories in life have been on the road.
Yeah, I agree there. That's true. So some of your trips, are you kind of enjoy the philosophy. It's like, I got to be, you pick a destination, say 1,800 miles, a ways away, it might take a day or two, and just say, cool, I want to be there in a couple of days, and just wing it and say, I'll figure out how I'm going to get there and just take off. Or do you kind of plan a little bit more, you could say?
I am the least plannering long distance rider on the planet. I don't, I am a random motion rider, I think, largely. My favorite thing to do is just go in a direction and not necessarily have a destination. I love that. I love that. Or to just have a destination. I got someplace I got to be this in a certain window of time, but the space in between, I never plan any of that out. I mean, I plan it to a limited extent in terms of where I'm heading, and maybe I have a few way stations along the way that I'm going to get to. But yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Getting lost on the road, getting lost on a motorcycle on a trip like that is not really getting lost. It's discovering new things and finding new places and little holes in the wall and things like that. I just love that. I love finding the ball of twine. I love finding the biggest frying pan. I love finding, the 50, Jesse James graves that are out there. It's all, all hugely enjoyable to me.
Or finding those amazing mom and pop little restaurants where you get food that just blows your mind in the middle of nowhere.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Without a doubt. I've had some awesome food on the road, some pretty crappy food on the road too, but I've had
Found
some
one
awesome.
in Broadass, Montana at the Saddlemen's Club. Little tiny town. It's like actually Springer Mike was with us. He'd met my wife and I up in Butte, Montana. We're heading down to Sturgis, and it's like, I'm hungry. And get online. Well, there's some little place down here. And remember, we pulled in, and some people were coming out, and it's like, hey, how's the food? Well, if you like barbecue, it's all right. I love barbecue.
Yeah.
We went in there. That was some of the best burgers. I mean, you tell they're all homemade patties. I mean, they weren't nothing store bought. Buns looked like they were homemade. I mean, all the food was absolutely freaking amazing.
Yeah, I was on a ride a couple of years ago, and I hadn't had a decent meal for a while. And I was going through some town in Wyoming, and this sign, the world's greatest burger, one of 50,000 of those signs in America, just that one caught my eye. And I went in there and had I think it was an elk burger. And that meal still stands out in my brain because I'd been eating, ramen and boiled eggs for several days, but it was a spectacular burger anyway. And I can think of that meal right now.
I think that's what I had when we stopped at the Saddlemen's Club. I think it was the elk burger. I'd take elk over beef any day. Yeah, I love it.
It was awesome.
So now I know you've competed in the Hoka Hay Challenge. We've had, a lot of people out here, but what made you want to attempt that?
I mean, the challenge of it, my whole life, it has, operated on the premise of, when somebody tells you you can't do something or that's difficult to achieve or impossible to achieve, then that's what really gets my juices going. And so Hoka Hay is all of that. Hoka Hay is just an awesome internal challenge, and it's packed in there with great causes for all the fundraising that happens in Hoka Hay and all the great work that happens for the charities that benefit from that. But the irksome nature of Hokahay, the top tier challenge aspect to it, the historical connections to our First Nations, all of those things. It just hits on all cylinders with me as just a really, really great challenge. In addition to that, the people are just amazing. You know, the Hokahay riders and the staff and all the people involved. They're just, you know, I've met some wonderful people through Hokahay, and this will be my third Hokahay that I've taken on coming up in August. So I'm a big fan.
Yeah, you take it to a whole nother level, in my opinion, because you're doing it on a panhead.
Yeah,
Attempting to finish it on the panhead, that we'll say.
That's right. I'm strike two. I'm 0 for 2 so far. I finished the last Hokahay, but I finished it on an ultra classic. The Panhead broke down on day 1 in 2022. That was sort of a good news, bad news breakdown because it wasn't fixable on the road, and it was day 1. So I had 500 miles on the bike, and a Woodruff key sheared on my pinion shaft, and I was done. I couldn't repair that. So the good news was it allowed me to turn around and go back and get on another motorcycle and still complete the challenge, which was great because I can't imagine what I'd feel like right now, you know, having waited another 2 years to complete Hokahay. The first Hokahay I ran in 2020, the Panhead made it right at about halfway. I stopped. I ended up having to fall out of the race in Beatrice, Nebraska, and I lost my charging system for that. So this will be the third time for the Panhead. You know, I mean, nobody's finished it on a vintage bike before. That's part of the challenge for me too. I love that aspect of it, but really what it's about, though, at a more fundamental level in my mind, is it's not anything. I don't see it as anything more irksome or more challenging than anybody else is doing in Hokahay. It's just, you know, I have the other dimension of the motorcycle mechanic aspects of it, because to keep that, that's exactly right, Twister. I hope so. Third time's the charm. And I think I got the bike ready for it. Really, for 8 years, I've been building on that Panhead with Hokahay in mind. Abby, who's a really great rider, she's finished Hokahay a few times before. She rode 53 Panhead this last Hokahay, and she made it 1,000 miles further than I did in 2020. So I don't think she's running it on her Panhead this next time, but she's an amazing rider, and really did a spectacular job this last time. So I think we got the right bike. You know, I've gotten, you know, the engine is a full rebuild on the engine. It's a original 48 engine. It's all stock. The bike is not stock, though. It's Johnny Cash's Cadillac, and everything on it has got Hokahay in mind. The only thing that's missing is a wild-ass cushion. I'm still working on getting a custom cushion created for it. But I'm putting a new carburetor on right now that should help me a little bit in reliability. But otherwise, there's no major work that I plan on doing for the bike. It's ready to go right now. If they'd let me leave tomorrow, I'd do it.
Now, see, isn't that Abby Steed or Stead?
Yeah, I think that's right. That's right. Yeah, she rides with a club called the Motor Maids. She She really is a monster on that Panhead. Amazing.
I remember meeting her at Black Hills Harley in 22 when I was there to
Yeah.
for everybody when they're taking off. Got some pictures of it, and need to reach out to her. I'd love to get her on too. I think it'd be
Yeah,
awesome.
she's just a really neat lady, really nice to talk to, and really pleasant. She's really an accomplished rider too.
Well, I think attempting it on a vintage bike is just it's a whole nother level, and uh can't think of the words I'm thinking of. Nostalgic.
Yeah, I mean that hits on all cylinders for me too. The nostalgia of it, harkening back to the days when men and women, got on their motorcycle and had to wrench on their motorcycle when they were on the road. If they taking on a long distance ride or going a distance on a bike like that, they showed that it's doable, but
Yeah.
it's doable working on it on the road. So I had I had to learn how to rebuild that engine in my sleep, really. I've rebuilt that engine 3 times up to this point since we originally built that bike. And to me that's part of it too. The nostalgia of keeping alive, working on old motorcycles, keeping alive that knowledge, that's an important piece of this too, because it's a dying breed. The number of people that we're losing in the motorcycle community that know old motorcycles and how to work on those, and know the reality that half of that is art, not just shop manual.
That's a
it,
very good point. Very true, because so many stuff nowadays, it's all, I mean, you can have your text, but it's all, oh, let me plug my computer in, and what does it say? And it's different from, having something vintage and having to do diagnostic on, you don't have a computer port to plug in. You got to get back into your brain and start doing diagnostic. Okay, fuel, spark, something like that. Okay, magneto, and there's a lot more. I mean, I wouldn't say a lot more to it because you have less, but you got to know what you're working with.
yeah, yeah, I like that. I like that aspect of it, and I like, you know, uh, it can be intimidating. In 2020, I lost my alternator in the Navajo Nation down somewhere in between New Mexico and Arizona. And, and, and it just imploded. So I was done on the side of the road and had to figure out, I mean, I couldn't go another 100 feet with it like it was because I had loose ball bearings inside the alternator. And, if that continued detonating, it would put that stuff in my gear case. And so I had to stop and figure that out. And I couldn't have been more remote in the middle of nowhere. That feeling of being stranded like that and trying to figure out a patch to get to the next civilization place or the next gas station. I actually like that. I love that. I love those moments, and you cobble together a solution to the problem. And, people are so nice too. People stop and want to help you. And, it just restores your faith in humanity, those experiences. When I lost that generator in 2020, I had a couple of club brothers that rode three hours across the Rockies to bring me apart. We tried to fix it. We weren't able to fix it, but they brought me apart, and we put that thing in a gas station in Pagosa Springs, Colorado. It was wonderful. That help, that figuring it out, being, on your own and having to figure out something like that and cobble together a solution. It's it's enjoyable to me.
They suck at the moment. At least, I mean, I've been there one time with mine heading to Pendleton, Oregon for my son's baseball game. I made it just going up White's Pass in southern Washington, and ended up being the regulator went out. And my dad had to go up to the little hardware store. So we're in a small town. They ended up wanting like 50 something bucks for a little multimeter. So we get down there, start doing some diagnosis, realize, cool, radiator, the regulator took a dump. So I get on the phone, calling the Harley shops, and lady's like, no, I don't have one. Sorry. I'm like, I'm broke down on the side of the highway. She's like, okay. She goes, give me a minute. And she gets in their little dealer network, says, Owens Power Sports in Yakima has one. And my phone was on speaker. And a friend of mine, Dustin, he's putting his helmet on. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm going to Yakima, man. I'll be back. And he goes, it's an hour and a half. I'll see you in 3 hours. He goes, just hang out. I'm like, yeah, like I'm going to go anywhere. And I never asked him. He goes, look at me, he goes, man, if it was me, he goes, I know you do the same thing. I'm like, valid point. Yeah. And, it sucks at the moment, but then it's like you can look back and it's part of the adventure and you can laugh about it. And, it's just another piece.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. When something breaks on that Panhead, it's a wailing and gnashing of teeth moment. But most of the time we're able to figure it out, and it can be profoundly frustrating. But so many times it paid off. It paid off because it ended up, once you figured it out, it was a reward in and of itself.
Yeah, Amy's little comment that my friend that went to save me is also my chiropractor. It's great. But okay, so here's one question. I mean, granted, I'm, riding some people nowadays, in a way, I guess they call it vintage. It's an 04. I'm like, it's not that old. But when you're trying to research, get stuff for your Panhead, how difficult is it finding stuff like, the magneto or generator and finding some of these parts when that's, older bike?
Yeah, sometimes it can be wicked difficult. When I was originally building the Panhead, it had been in a fire, and so it was completely a basket case. And so, finding gears and finding pieces to put the bike back together. When I originally built it, me and one of my best friends in the world, a guy by the name of John Hall, we built that bike along with another friend of ours, contributed to that, guy by the name of TC Johnson. But John Hall and I mainly built that bike over a year and a half. And John Hall is one of the finest harley-davidson mechanics that existed or that I know of. Old Harley mechanic. Used to own a Harley dealership with his brother back in the day in Central Texas. And he took me under his wing to teach me everything he knew, or everything he could teach me. Not everything he knew, because I don't think I could ever learn that with John Hall, but took me under his wing and spent that time with me to transfer that knowledge. We spent a lot of time going through, small independent motorcycle shops, parts bins, looking for pieces and parts. And I mean, fortunately now we got the internet. You can find some stuff, a lot easier that way, but it still takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. And because of Hokahay, I've transitioned a lot of things on that bike. That bike has been an evolution, really, over the last 8 years. So it's a stock 48 engine, and it's a stock frame. It's an original Harley frame, and I have the original 4-speed transmission, but I've since put a Baker 6-4 in it. That helps me out a lot on the road because it gives me another, 5 to 10 miles an hour in the top end, that makes a huge difference for Hokahay. Being able to, not being stuck running 70 miles an hour constantly helps out quite a bit. So that's a huge help. And I run a magneto on that bike. because of its repairability on the road, and I can put points in it and do things on the road without a lot of tricky diagnostic requirements. Clutch is a pretty basic dry open clutch, so repairability on the road is really, really nice. And when I converted into long distance riding mode, I kind of have, it's got 18-inch ape hangers on it, which would seem ridiculous for riding something like Hokahay, but the way it's set up, I basically have a bag that's the perfect bag that I ride with. I ride the same bag and the same contents for that bag for Hokahay that I do for a weekend trip, and it goes on that sissy bar on the bike, and it's my backrest, and I pull those handlebars back, and it's long distance mode. It's a very comfortable bike to ride, reasonably comfortable for a rigid frame. To ride over a long distance and a lot of hours of riding a day. So everything I've done to it has been with this in mind.
No, that's awesome. It's cool to see, people still enjoy the vintage style and then, some of the nostalgic and of riding the older bikes. You just, you're not seeing more and more of them. You might see, on a weekend little, these guys can get out a nice summer day. You can see some nice little bikes. Take, the aspect of what you're doing with it. It's pretty fucking cool to see.
Well, I appreciate that.
For sure. So besides that one, what's the other one you spent time riding on?
The Dyna, I've spent a lot of time on that bike. Now, when I went back at last Hokahay and got on a different bike, I got a used Ultra Classic. I'm sure you can imagine that took quite a bit of a sales job to my wife to say, I'm going to get another motorcycle, so I could finish Hokahay. And the whole idea there was to sell that bike as soon as Hokahay was over with. And of course that hadn't happened, because now I've gotten attached to that thing, and it's a lot of fun to ride. And, compared to riding the Panhead, I feel like I'm cheating a little bit, but it's not, it's just a whole different experience riding on that thing, and pretty enjoyable. I like the variety.
What year is it?
14.
Oh, yeah. Still got the twin cam. I like it.
Twin cam, and it's the first year that it had the water cooled heads, which is great. I love that. I think from a reliability standpoint and a long distance riding standpoint, that's just a huge plus.
Especially in hot weather, if you keep it down, and because you can get a lot of heat coming off the back cylinders until, if you get rid of the stock crossover, which can help. But yeah.
And I entered a raffle, a raffle 3 months ago, and won a full set of Legends suspension for that motorcycle.
Oh, damn.
On that raffle. It's the first raffle I've ever won. It's like the cosmos giving me a blessing, it was just awesome.
That's a killer deal.
I can't wait to get those things on. I'm a little bit preoccupied with getting the Panhead ready to go for Hokahay, but I'm hoping to get that suspension on and give that a whirl and see what that's about.
Yeah, that's a nice score. I think you're going to love that. You take that one a lot of riding, getting out and enjoying and seeing the country on that one, or
I do
how you
now.
spend your time?
Yeah, I do now. I've been doing a lot of wrenching I'm trying to save the Panhead for Hokahay, to be honest. So now I've been riding that Ultra Classic mostly for all of my distance riding in the last year. And the Panhead's still on a lift right now, getting a new carburetor put in it. But So it's me in the Ultra Classic until then. I got a couple of shakeout rides planned for late April and May. I got a brother in the club that's going to be riding in Hokahay this time, and he and I are going to do a shakeout ride, Hokahay style, off of one of the previous Hokahay's route cards, just to sort of do a shakeout for him, and so he can see what it's about, and a shakeout for my Panhead, so we can make sure that's all working right. On the Pan, I got a 5-gallon tank. There's a question there in the thread.
Yeah, wrong way.
Yeah. Is that wrong way?
Yeah.
Yeah. The Panhead's got its split bob tanks, and it'll hold 5 gallons, and I can get a little over 150 miles pretty much all the time between fuel stops. And if I'm careful, a little more. We'll see with this new Mikuni carburetor. We'll see how that all factors into that. But, I've been getting about 38 miles to the gallon to 42 miles to the gallon, which ain't bad.
No, and I was going to ask you that, which carburetor, whether you're going like with the old style, the S&S, the Super E, or what you're going to be going with it.
Yeah, I have had a Super E on it for several years, and that carburetor finally wore out. I mean, I've tried rejetting it and adjusting and doing all kinds of craziness. We're always wanting to hear the need and fuel story from that
must be a good one.
It was a good one. That was actually 2020 Hokahay, I think, but I ran out of gas. It actually is one of my favorite on the road stories. I ran out of gas somewhere in New Mexico, and it's because they had taken us on a detour, and it was this dirt road washboard detour that literally took me 30 minutes to get through this dirt road. And by the time I got back up on the road that we were supposed to have been on, I ran out of gas 3 miles before a gas station. And I called around to see what support I could get, see if somebody could bring me some gas, if somebody who knew somebody was in the area that might be able to bring me some gas. And one of my close friends, and he rode in Hokahay in 22, but he got kind of inventive and ingenious on that, and he got on what's that dating app?
Tinder.
Yeah, Tinder. He got on Tinder, and he found a woman that was 3 miles from me and talked her into bringing me, and he was 3 states away, and he talked her into bringing me a gallon of gas. And Norma, if you're out there and you're by chance listening to this, you are my favorite Tinder date, my only Tinder date I've ever had, third party. She brought me a gallon of gas, her and her daughter, and they were just so beautiful and wonderful, to me on the road. They brought me a gallon of gas, and I was on the road in 20 minutes thanks to a Tinder date.
That is freaking hysterical.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
And inventive. I wouldn't have ever thought of something like that, but it was pretty. I thought that was highly inventive. He got a gold star from me.
Talk about being resourceful.
Yeah.
I need fuel. Let's get on Tinder. How he came up with that idea, I would love to hear that from him, his story. That's just crazy. So besides the Hokahay this year, you got any other adventures you got going on planned for?
and um, we'll do some destination riding to several places to go meet up with brothers and go to various gatherings and runs and stuff. But I'm really looking forward to the shakeout rides. We'll probably head over on part of the 2020 route for Hokahay that took us through El Paso and up through New Mexico to Santa Fe, New Mexico, and then up to Pagosa Springs. So we'll probably take that part of the 2020 route as a practice Hokahay run. I'm really looking forward to that. That should be a lot of fun. Get our juices flowing, and get a chance for English to get to be able to work with the navigation process and get a little bit better feel of how that works. That's got a bit of a learning curve to it.
Oh yeah, I think it's a great idea. Do the trial run for sure. So I got to ask you,
the kit. Just knowing what to bring with you. I mean, that is something that just you got to do it to know that. But everybody gets a lot of suggestions on what you take with you on something like that. But I mean, I find that everybody just has their own. It always amazes me the number of new tricks or things that you wouldn't think you'd need on something like that. Riot and that umbrella. Riot has changed so many people's lives with that umbrella. You can't live without an umbrella on Hokahay. And I'm not sure where he got that idea from, but it's impacted a lot of our lives. I think Sparks is on here, and that umbrella changed his life last time.
Yeah, I think he was with Jason Miller in that picture with the umbrella in the middle of nowhere. Just get some shade. It's smart.
Yeah, it just is huge. I mean, it just keeps you from just getting completely beat to death on some of those stretches. That stretch in 2022 across the Great Basin just I thought I was going to evaporate away. That was amazing how hot that thing was.
Oh, Sparks and Taekwon. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Taekwon. Yep.
So I know you're talking about doing some, club. Are you going to do the blood, sweat, and beers run up here?
I'm going to miss that one, but I do get up to Portland on an intermittent basis a few times a year. And so I'm looking forward to getting up to the Northwest sometime real soon.
Yeah, if you do, let me know.
I've kind of always had a dream trip also. I've always wanted to ride my Panhead up to Newfoundland. We have some brothers up there there's a chapter in Newfoundland, and I can't, it wouldn't be the first guys to visit them in Newfoundland, but I just think that would be a spectacular trip.
I knew that's way up the East Coast, Canada.
Yeah, you got to do some ferry riding to get to that, but
that would be a heck of a ride.
Yeah,
that'd be some beautiful country. The East Coast, and especially the northern East Coast, has always been on my bucket list to go see and check out.
Yeah,
get up through the Catskills, New York, and then Maine, and some of that country is just pictures I've seen and talking to people that have ridden it. That's their backyard area.
I've never ridden up there. I was, that was the next leg for Hokahay 2020 was to get up to Vermont. But I ended up leaving the ride before that. And I regret that piece of it. I need to get up there and spend some time riding.
Yeah, Kelpfire, she's in the upper East Coast. Lake George and Lake Placid is gorgeous, she said.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Well, yeah, thanks for coming and hanging out and sharing some stories, Hyde.
Well, thank you so much, and thanks for the opportunity to talk. Give me a chance to talk about Hokahay and talk about me and that old Panhead that I love, and um, it's a joy.
I think it's just awesome, attempting to do something, that challenge, but then doing it you know, on a challenge in a way, it's fair to say it's pretty awesome.
Well, thank you.
Makes it one of a kind for sure. So right on. Well, thanks for hanging out tonight, and you got busy stuff going on and whatnot. So, but thanks for hanging out, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We will catch you guys next Sunday for 1:30. Freaking crazy. Hang around for a minute, Hyde. So hey,
All
we'll
right.
catch you guys at Crossroads. Thanks for tuning in, enjoying the Milepost, and we'll see y'all soon.